Hey everyone, what is going on? So I wanted to first thank pvpoke.com for providing me with a really good resource of the website to get a general idea of some of the best Pokemon to use for the Master League. So I definitely used them as a resource, as I do all the time. I'm on the website almost every day, so we'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to go ahead and check them out yourself. I totally recommend it. And the next thing I also wanted to mention was that this is not going to be a cheap cup. I mean, this is the Master League. Everything that you use has to be maxed out. It has to be, right? If you use it for the Master League, it should totally be as powerful as it can be. You also want to aim for 100% perfect Pokemon. There's no more of this 0 or 1 IV in attack. You want everything perfect or as close to perfect as possible. A 98% will do, a 96% will do, but you want to get as close to possible as you can to the 100%. And yeah, it's just not going to be a cheap cup. Now, there are ways to make it cheaper. You could definitely go for Pokemon that only have 10,000 Stardust requirements for secondary moves, and we'll talk about some of those teams and some of the Pokemon you can use for the Master League in this video, so you don't have to go ahead and invest in all of these very powerful legendaries. And another thing you might want to consider doing is doing lucky trades so you can get some of these Pokemon lucky, because not only are they going to have better IVs overall, but it's also going to be cheaper to max out. It'll probably be roughly around, I mean, it depends on the level of the Pokemon, but it'll be cheaper to max out. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these Pokemon. So we have an S plus tier, same as the Ultra League, and we're looking at 3 Pokemon in this list. We're looking at the Giratina Origin Form, Mewtwo, and Dialga. So the Origin Form I do feel is better than Altered Form for the Master League compared to the Ultra League, where we always saw the Altered Form. It's just because its attacks are really not that powerful. I mean, Dragon Claw and Ancient Power, he gets to them fast, the Altered Form, but they're really just not that powerful. Whereas you'll be doing a lot of damage with the Origin Form. I expect a lot of people, especially in the higher tiers, to be using this. If they have it invested, you'll definitely see the Origin Form. I actually recently bought a second move on this one, so I'm good to go. I think I have like a 98%. I have perfect attack, so I'm going with my Origin Form when the Master League comes. And we're going to move on to Mewtwo. Now, not any Mewtwo. The Mewtwo that has the exclusive move Psy Strike is one that I totally recommend. So you can go with Psycho Cut or Confusion, Ice Beam, which is another good move, and Psy Strike. So Ice Beam, I love Ice Beam for Mewtwo because it does hit those Giratina, so should you face one, definitely do a lot of damage, as well as other flying types or grass types should you encounter one. Togekiss I think will be a pretty decent player in this cup, so it definitely hit that. So Mewtwo I think is going to be a really good one. I have a lucky Mewtwo with Psy Strike. I did not max out yet or give it a second move, but I'm looking to do so for the Master League. So we're going to move on to Dialga. So Dragon Breath doing a lot of damage. It also gets Iron Head. Now, that's definitely really good to hit the fairy types. It's also going to resist Charm, right? So it's not going to be weak to it like Giratina is. So it's going to resist it. It's not going to resist it. It's going to be neutral to it because it's Dragon, right? It's pot Dragon as well as pot Steel. So it's going to be neutral to it, but it's not taking as much as like Giratina would, if that makes sense. So Iron Head as a charge move, definitely going to be super powerful. It also gets Thunder, which is another good option for you. But yeah, Dialga looking to be really good. So we're moving on to the S tier, and I do have the other Giratina in the S tier. I was actually thinking of moving this down to A tier, but I think it's still a pretty good Pokemon. I mean, it's going to have more bulk than the Origin Form. It's just one that I don't think you're going to see as much as Giratina Origin, but same moveset as the Ultra League, right? Shadow Claw as well as Dragon Claw and Ancient Power, right? Excuse me. So I think you'll probably see it. I just don't think it's going to be as common as the Origin Form. I think it's going to reverse itself compared to the Ultra League, right? So we're going to move on. Metagross, I think it's going to be a really solid pick. It's going to be really tanky, and it's going to be really powerful. So Metagross, Bullet Punch, it's going to be really powerful. Going to be able to hit those fairy types. So we'll have to see how Metagross is looking for this cup, but it's one that I think is going to be good, as is Lugia. I think Lugia has really good bulk for the Master League. It maxes out high, so it's not the greatest for, it's good for the Great League, it's good for the Ultra League, but I think it really shines in the Master League. So I think Lugia is something you might want to look out for. It's another Pokemon I have a lucky for. I've been preparing for this guy, so I'm good to go. I'm using those tricks that I'm telling you guys to get the lucky Pokemon. max it out that way. It's still expensive, but it's cheaper. So then we're going to jump on over to Togekiss. Now, Togekiss we've seen really big in the Ultra League, right? Really good Pokemon. It's also in the Great League, but it's really dominating the Ultra League. So this is another good Pokemon that I obviously think you're going to see. So same moveset, Charm, Ancient Power, Flamethrower on this Togekiss. And as I've mentioned in the Ultra League videos, you do want to go ahead and buy that second move on the Togepi, so it's only 10,000 Stardust instead of being the 50,000, right? So you save Stardust that way. Obviously, try to trade for a lucky Togepi if you can. So moving on to the A tier, we have Kyogre. So Kyogre actually probably wouldn't even be on this list if it didn't get Surf. It has Surf now, so Waterfall and Surf, really powerful. Definitely maxes out high, so it's definitely going to be one that I believe some people might consider using should they have it. If you don't have it, obviously you might not see it, but I think it's going to be a really good Pokemon. It also has access to Blizzard, which hits the Dragon Pokemon. It gets Thunder too, so you can kind of pick and choose which moveset you want. I would probably lean towards Blizzard, but you definitely want that Surf. So really good Pokemon. So we're going to move on to Mew. Mew is good in every league, but it's the same thing. I mean, I'm not going to invest in it because I want to save my Mew for the Great League. So I'm just going to keep it as is, but it's a really good Pokemon. If you have one maxed out, you might want to consider giving it a shot if you have the good moveset on it, right? So we're going to move on to Snorlax, which is really big in the Ultra League, isn't it? I mean, you see it a lot. A really good Pokemon, really tanky Pokemon, even tankier in the Master League. So Lick, Body Slam, and Earthquake. It also gets Superpower if you want that instead of Earthquake, but I think Earthquake is probably the way to go. But yeah, really tanky Pokemon. Buy that second move as a Munchlax, and you should be good to go. Still going to cost a lot to max out, but it is what it is. So yeah, we're going to move on to Melmetal, a Pokemon we've seen in the Ultra and Great League, but it's also going to be really good for the Master League, in my opinion. I think this is going to be another powerful hitter, so you might want to consider Melmetal. It is expensive, believe me, it's expensive. Maybe try and get a lucky one, but definitely an expensive Pokemon. So let's move on to Groudon. Groudon is another expensive Pokemon. I have a lucky one. I have one maxed out, but I think Groudon is definitely going to be a good Pokemon for the Master League. Going to max out high. Mudshot and Earthquake, it's just charges up so fast, right? We know how fast Mudshot charges, so Groudon, definitely keep your eyes peeled for that one. So we're going to move on to Swampert. Now Swampert is probably the only Community Day Pokemon currently, or well, the only starter Community Day Pokemon that's really only going to be good for the Master League. The others, like Venusaur and Charizard, I don't really see them having a role in this cup. You still might see them because people are like, okay, well, it's cheaper to max out, I might just go with it, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think Swampert is probably the best. It gets to those Hydro Cannons fast. It maxes out higher than like the other ones. For example, Blastoise doesn't even max out at 2500, it maxes out below. So Swampert maxes out a little bit higher. So Swampert, I think, will be really powerful for this cup, and definitely more of a budget pick compared to the legendaries, right? So let's move on to Darkrai. I think Darkrai is another really good Pokemon. You know how powerful Snarl is, so it does have Snarl, it has Focus Blast, right? It's a really powerful Pokemon. I think this one is a Pokemon that you're going to see. I do want to use one too. You can't get a lucky one of this though because you can't trade Darkrai, so you do have to be on the lookout for that. If you have one, I think it's going to be a really good Pokemon. So by the way, sorry for the background noise if you hear some background noise. So anyway, we're moving on to the other notable choices. Now, by no means are these bad Pokemon. These are definitely good Pokemon, especially that Heatran. I can't wait to try out Heatran. I was considering using bumping that up to maybe A tier because I think Heatran's going to be really good. Maybe S tier, I don't know. But anyway, let's go ahead and go in order. We're going to begin with Dragonite. So we've seen Dragonite in the Ultra League, right? We've seen it quite a bit. It's not a bad Pokemon. There's other dragons that are better. It does have Dragon Breath, so it's a good one. But I think like some of the others, like Dialga, for example, I think it's just going to be better. It's still a good Pokemon, but I think Dialga will be better. We have Garchomp. Garchomp is another Pokemon, Mudshot, Earthquake, which is going to be good as well, so you might want to consider that out. So we have Garros next, which is another budget pick, or as budgety as it can be. That's not a word, but you get what I'm saying, because it's only 10k to unlock a second move for Magikarp and Gyarados, and we know how powerful it is. It can hit those Dragon-type Pokemon. It gets pretty high in terms of CP, so definitely a Pokemon you might want to consider, and you'll probably run into it here and there. I don't think it's going to be super common common, but I think you'll see it. So we're going to move on to Conkeldurr. So this is a really interesting Pokemon. It does have counter, right? So definitely a bulkier Machamp that you might see in the Master League. And now we have Armored Mewtwo. So Armored Mewtwo I would have used in the Ultra League if it had its current or its future move, Side Strike, but we should have that by the time the Master League comes out, or maybe shortly after the Master League is released. I'm not exactly too sure when Armored Mewtwo comes back, but that's definitely one to consider. So Raikou is another really good Pokemon. That Wild Charge, Thundershock Wild Charge, right? It also gets Volt Switch, doesn't it? I could be wrong. I was thinking Thundershock when I was making this video, but maybe it gets Volt Switch. If I'm wrong, correct me about that. I'll have to look at that after this video, but either way, Volt Switch, Thundershock, definitely going to charge up to that Wild Charge really fast. It also gets Shadow Ball. I've used it in the Great League just to practice with. So really a good Pokemon. Maybe it deserves the highest spot, to be honest with you. Maybe it deserves like A tier. I think that's going to be a really good Pokemon. So we're going to move on to Jirachi. Now this is another Pokemon we've seen in the Great League. It's just like Mew. I'm not going to invest in it because I want to keep my Jirachi for the Great League just in case I want to use it in the Silph Cup. So I will not be investing in this, not for the Ultra or Master League, only for the Great League. But we know what Jirachi does. It's a good Pokemon. Articuno is another good one. I think you might see. Ice Shot, Icy Wind, right? Definitely gets the job done. It also has Ancient Power. We've been seeing a lot of it thanks to King in the Ultra League, so I think it also has a place in the meta for the Master League, so you might want to keep an eye on Articuno. So we have Virizion, so very interesting Pokemon, definitely good. It has Leaf Blade, right? It has Close Combat, which was recently buffed, so a Pokemon you might see, not the greatest, but it's one that is not, it definitely could benefit from that increase in close combat, so definitely a cool Pokemon. So now we have Heatran, and Heatran is actually a Pokemon I have a perfect Lucky of. I will be maxing this out and giving it a second move. I think Heatran is going to be really good, so I definitely can't wait to try that. So definitely one that you might want to consider using, right? So really powerful Pokemon. It has Iron Head, you know, it's a really good Pokemon, you know, and obviously it counters Togekiss really well, so that's definitely one that you might want to consider. So we're going to move on. We're going to look at Latios, so another dragon type that I think is obviously going to be a good candidate should you have one. A lot of variety, but also a lot of legendary Pokemon. We have Machamp next. I think Conkeldurr is probably better than Machamp. I could be wrong, but we have Machamp, which obviously maxes out. It maxes out above 3,000 CP, so it's not bad. So Machamp is definitely one you could consider, and a lot of us, if we've been playing for a long time, might have maxed out Machamps. So you might already have one, and you could just go with it just to see what it's like. So next up, Haxorus. So Haxorus is an interesting Pokemon. It does have counter as a fast move, so I do think it's going to be a pretty good Pokemon. I think it also gets Dragon Claw and Night Slash, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. I'll have to double check on that, but I think it does. I don't think we'll really see it too much, but it's not a terrible Pokemon. So let's move on to Hydreigon, another Pokemon that is a powerful one. Again, I don't think we'll see it too much, but I think it's okay. And then the last but not least is going to be Zapdos on this list. Obviously, there could be other Pokemon that you might want to look out for. And if you have other suggestions, definitely leave them in the comments down below so I could check them out. But as for the solid team options, we have a few teams here. We have the first team is going to be the Giratina Origin Form, Togekiss and Heatran. This is the team that I'm looking at trying out, so that's why I put it first. I think this is going to be a really solid team, so I cannot wait to try it out and see how it works, you know. So I already have the Togekiss and the Giratina maxed out. I don't have the Heatran. It is on its way to level 40, but it's not there yet. It's not maxed out yet, and it doesn't have a second move yet. So expensive team, but I already have two of them covered. So we're going to move on to the Origin Giratina and then Melmetal and Swampert. So Swampert's a little bit cheaper, but I do think this is going to be a pretty solid team in general, because we do have that coverage with Melmetal if it has Superpower, and then Rock Slide, right? Giratina is going to be hitting, obviously, really strong damage with Ominous Wind and Shadow Ball. Swampert, obviously, we know that has Earthquake. And by the way, you probably do want Earthquake over Sludge Wave on this team. So I think that's pretty good on the Swampert in general for the Master League. For the next set, we have the three S+ tiers. We have the Mewtwo with Side Strike, we have Dialga, and we have Giratina Origin Form. So just it's just a solid, hard-hitting, powerful team, right? We'll probably see a lot of these. We have the Ice Beam on Mewtwo. If you go with Ice Beam to hit the dragons, we have Dragon Breath from Dialga to hit opposing Giratina. We have Giratina that can just do a lot of damage with Shadow Ball. We have Iron Head from Dialga to hit any Charm users. Should you see Togekiss or even Clefable, I don't know what other people might run. So definitely a hard-hitting team. And then the next team I have is Dialga, Lugia, and Darkrai. So I decided to make a team that didn't include Giratina Origin Form. So I think that's going to be a really powerful team. I'm really excited to try out Lugia in the Master League. So anyway, for the budget teams, so we're going to take a look at some budget teams. Now, as I said, there's not really a budget option for this meta for the Master League because you still have to max it out. So even if you get a lucky one, it's probably going to be at least like close to 100,000 to max out, unless if it's already really high. But if it's like a raid level, like level 20, it'll be like 97,000+ to max out for a lucky. So, you know, there's not really a budget option, but as close to being budget as possible. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So we have Snorlax. Obviously, buy that second move as a Munchlax for 10,000. Try to get a lucky one. I personally traded for a lucky Munchlax, and it came to a 98%. So I'm really happy about that, and I evolved it. So I'm just going to probably power that up. So you'll probably be seeing Snorlax on my team as well for the Master League. Swampert. We know what Swampert does. If you had the Hydro Cannon from Community Day, it's one that you definitely want to consider trying. Again, you have to get a lucky... Well, you don't have to get a lucky one, but it's just cheaper if you want to go that route. And Togekiss, you definitely want to buy that second move as a Togepi. You know, I've mentioned it before, guys, because it's only 10k for a Togepi, whereas it's 50k for a Togetic or a Togekiss. So if you're looking to be as cheap as possible, that's the route to go, probably. And then I have one more team for you in terms of a budget pick. It's going to be Gyarados, Magikarp, and Gyarados, as I've already mentioned. Only 10k for a second move. And since this is a really old Pokemon, some of you might already have a maxed out Gyarados. Unless if you're newer to the game, then that's okay, then you don't have it. But anyway, Snorlax, same thing, Munchlax, buy that second move. And buy the second move on the Togepi. Now, yeah, so... overall, this is my take on the Master League, so let me know what you think and what Pokemon you plan on using for the Master League yourself. Are you going to even participate in it? Because I've heard some people say they're not even going to participate in the Master League because it's too much of an investment. You don't have the Stardust, you want to save it. And if that's the case, it's unfortunate I won't see it in the Master League, but I understand. You know, I'm not going to blame you. So anyway, that's going to conclude this video. I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye. Thank you so much for checking out my latest video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter. If you like this video, check out one of my other videos that you'll probably enjoy.